Genesis chapter number 27, verse number 1, it says, "And it came to pass that when Isaac was old, and his eyes were dim, so that he could not see, he called Esau his eldest son, and said unto him, My son. And he said unto him, Behold, here am I. And he said, Behold, now I am old, I know not the day of my death. Now therefore take, I pray thee, thy weapons, thy quiver, and thy bow, and go out to the field, and take me some venison, and make me savory meat, such as I love, and bring it to me, that I may eat, that my soul may bless thee before I die. And Rebekah heard when Isaac spake to Esau his son, and Esau went to the field to hunt for venison, and to bring it." We read the first 5 verses here, and one of the things, again, as I mentioned already, this is a very common verse, a very common chapter, and we notice some things, maybe just what we know from it, and is what we'll be looking at today. We see some things. We see that Isaac here, he's concerned about the day of his death. He wants to bless his eldest son. And of course, you understand, while the law has not been instituted yet, the elder would be the one to get this birthright, to get this blessing, this added blessing, as he is the firstborn, as he is the eldest. Now we know that it was in the Lord's doing that Jacob would be the one that would take these things. And we saw the other week where Jacob would rightly get that, but we know that Jacob, in his own strength, would trick his brother, would negotiate with his brother, and take the birthright, the first thing, the birthright that was taken through Esau's desire for some food. And Esau would despise his birthright. This time we'll see that the blessing is going to be taken, but it's going to be taken through trickery. It's going to be taken through deception. Now Isaac here, he's making provision for his flesh. Everyone in this story, everyone in this chapter is thinking about what they want. You think about it. Isaac's making provision for his flesh. Esau is carnally minded. And Rebekah and Jacob will deceive. They'll scheme together to take the blessing by deception. And so everyone's wrong. Everyone's wrong. And there's a lot here that we can take away from here, from practical as well as other things historically, that we can see that reminds us that we shouldn't be that way. We shouldn't. Now, in spite of all this sinfulness, God intervenes. And while this is Old Testament, while this is the history of Israel, and while this is Old Testament, the truth is God intervenes in our lives as well. I mean, even after salvation, we're still in this carnal, fallen flesh, and we make a mess of things. But for some reason, God still chooses to use us. God still chooses to do things with us. And even sometimes the messes we make, He'll still get glory from it. And we're reminded of the fact that if our Lord and Savior is long-suffering with us, we ought to be long-suffering with each other. Now, again, regardless of God's intervention, there's going to be a steep price paid for this sinfulness. And I hope with the Lord's help we get through all this and look at this. We need to ensure our motives are for the right reasons. And I think you'll see that as we go along. Now, again, we've already mentioned the time of Isaac's life here. He believes his time's drawing nigh. Of course, we know that it's still going to be some time. It reminds us the fact that, we think, I don't have much more time. And it's true. Our life is but a vapor. But God is the one that decides the timing of our departure, not us. And we're reminded of that. Rebekah here, she hears this conversation of her husband and her eldest son. And then what does Rebekah do? Well, verse number 6, it says, And Rebekah spake unto Jacob her son, saying, Behold, I heard thy father speak unto Esau thy brother, saying, Bring me venison and make me savory meat, that I may eat and bless thee before the Lord before my death. Now therefore, my son, obey my voice according to that which I command thee. Go now to the flock, and fetch me from thence 2 good kids of the goats, and I will make them savory meat for thy father, such as he loveth. And thou shalt bring it to thy father, that he may eat, and that he may bless thee before his death. And Jacob said to Rebekah his mother, Behold, Esau my brother is a hairy man, and I am a smooth man. My father peradventure will feel me, and I shall seem to him as a deceiver, and I shall bring a curse upon me, and not a blessing. And his mother said unto him, Upon me be thy curse, my son, only obey my voice, and go fetch me them. And he went and fetched and brought them to his mother, and his mother made savory meat such as his father loved. Now, there is so many problems with what we just read there. I mean, do you see the deception that's going on? Do you see the trouble that's being brewed right here? Notice some things here. Rebekah was determined, and she knew the blessing. She knew what God had told her. But here's the issue. It's not in God's timing. You see, when we get ahead of God and we try to make things happen, we make a mess. That's what happened with Jacob. And it seems like he's like his mom in this. You know, children inherit our bad features, don't they? You ever discipline your children and go, "Where did you get that?" "Oh, you got that from me." Or "You got that from your mother." We do. It seems like children take on our bad habits, right? And Rebekah here and Jacob are very much alike. And so Jacob here, he's listening to his mother. And let me say this. Rebekah's actions, while it was what was supposed to happen, it wasn't done in the right manner and it wasn't done in the right timing. God would have seen to it that the blessing would have passed the right way. You see, two wrongs do not make a right. Two wrongs do not make a right. You cannot say, "Well, I'm going to do this and this and this." The ends do not justify the means. And unfortunately, we're in a generation, and I've seen this with folks, well, as long as the outcome's right, who cares how I got there? God cares. And if you did it illegally, it's wrong. I don't care how you did. I don't care what you're doing. It does account for something. "Oh, I made the money I wanted." Well, what did you do? "Well, I did this, this, and this." I mean, there's people doing things with apps today and whatnot that just because, "Oh, I need this money," well, I can just do anything to make what I need to make. Wait a minute. Is it right before God? Are you illegally doing something? And maybe it's not illegal to man's laws, but it's still illegal in God's eyes. It's wrong. And we're justifying things that we ought not to be justifying before God. And so the ends do not justify the means. This was wrong. And so she, instead of going to her husband and saying, "Look, this is what God told me, this is wrong, we ought to be, God wants Jacob to be taking these things." What does she do? She instigates this with her son, and she's making something happen in her own wisdom and her own strength. And that's what gets us in trouble. And so Rebekah tells Jacob of Isaac's intentions, and she instructs Jacob to impersonate Esau. Now, the other thing that I've noticed here, and it's interesting, is notice in verse number, let's see here. Verse number 8. It says, "Now therefore, my son, obey my voice according to that which I command thee." Please don't misunderstand what I'm about to say. But do you notice her urgency in her voice? Notice she says, "Now therefore, my son, obey my voice according to that which I command thee." Time was of the essence. If they were going to pull this off, it was important that they get things done before Esau got back from the field. Do you know what happens? Evil always presents itself in a way that says, "Hey, you need to do this and you need to do it now." Peer pressure. Young people. I have a few in the room. They're older, young adults here. Co-workers, maybe high school students. They're going to give you pressure to say, "Hey, you need to do this, and you do that right now, because if you don't, you're going to miss out." It sounds like an infomercial, doesn't it? But wait, there's more. You know what's behind that? "Hey, I can do this right now if you'll sign on the dotted line." It's like buying a car, going out and buying a car. But I can't promise you if you come back tomorrow. You don't have time to think. Do it now. Sin presents itself that way. You've got to do it now. Push that button. And boy, you make a mess of your life. You don't have time to step back and think this through and think, okay, well, that might not be a good thing. If anybody ever puts pressure on you to say, "Well, I need an answer today." Well, you can't give me 48 hours? If you walk out that door, it's over. Well, then I'm walking out the door. Because, and this is the way sin is. And please don't misunderstand me. I know Rebecca's his mom, but in this case, she is the voice of evil. And be careful, because you could be the voice of evil for somebody. Be thinking about how you affect your brothers and sisters in Christ, how you affect your children, how you affect those around you, because be thinking about how you are with folks. Rebecca's instructions was to urge him to sin. Now, the other thing that we see is this deception is not a commendable trait. In fact, we're told as Christians that we're told to have charity one to another. Charity vaunteth not. Charity is not puffed up. Charity doesn't urge you to sin. We are told, if you will, go ahead and turn over to 1 Corinthians 13, and I'm trying to have the Lord lead me in how much I go into, because I know time is we only have so much time for Sunday school, but I think these things are important. Verse number 4, it says, charity suffereth long and is kind. Charity envieth not. Charity vaunteth not itself, is not puffed up, doth not behave itself unseemly, seeketh not her own, is not easily provoked, thinketh no evil. Now, do you think that Rebecca was using charity? No. That was a rhetorical question. No, she was not. The question is, do we use charity? Do we exercise charity one to another? Notice it says it thinketh no evil. It's not puffed up. It does not behave itself unseemly. It rejoiceth not in iniquity, verse number 6. Rejoiceth in truth. In other words, instead of iniquity, she rejoices in truth. It beareth all things, verse number 7. Believeth all things. Hopeth all things. Endureth all things. Verse number 8. Charity never faileth, but whether there be prophecies, they shall fail. Whether there be tongues, they shall cease. Whether there be knowledge, it shall vanish away. But notice there, charity never faileth. As Christians, we are told to have charity one to another. And so when we behave ourselves unseemly, when we lure people into a trap, you say, I don't do that. Do you not? Is there times that maybe in business or in other things, you want something, so what do? You instigate something just to create an environment where you get what you want. That's not charity, that's thinking evil. So this is Sunday school. Yeah, exactly. So teaching some things. Come back for the main service. I know Pastor Ray will have more. But we ought to be this way. We ought to have charity one to another. And, the believers at Thessalonica were commended for their charity. First Thessalonians chapter 3, verse number 6, it says, But now when Timotheus came from you unto us, and brought us good tidings of your faith and charity, and that ye had good remembrance of us always, desiring greatly to see us, we also see you. Notice it says, but when Timothy came back from seeing them, what does it say? Brought us good tidings of your faith and charity. The believers at Thessalonica had charity one for another. So we're told, and that wasn't the only place, in 2 Thessalonians they were commended again for their charity. So we ought to have charity one for another. The other thing that you notice here, verse number 11, it says in Jacob, back in our text, verse number 11, And Jacob said to Rebekah his mother, Behold, Esau my brother is a hairy man, and I am a smooth man. My father peradventure will fill me, and I shall seem to him a deceiver, and shall bring a curse upon me, and not a blessing. Now, the other thing that you notice is Jacob is concerned about the situation, but it's not for what you think it is. It's not that, oh, Mom, this is wrong. I'm concerned about doing this evil. It's, I might get caught. That sounds like your child, doesn't it? Sounds like some siblings with each other. What if we get caught? I thought about that. You see, the concern wasn't due to a problem with sinning. The concern was the consequences of sinning. It's not good. It's not good at all. If your only reason for not doing evil is fear of getting caught, then you lack character. You lack character. You lack charity. You lack the foundations of what it means to be a Christian. And here's the problem. If you're only concerned about sinning as getting caught and the consequences of sinning, then one day when the opportunity presents itself to do wrong and you think seemingly there's no consequences, you will sin. Remember Amnon? Amnon had a friend named Jonadab. And Amnon thought it hard to do anything with his sister. But then Jonadab gave him all the ideas of how to make it happen, and so he did it. And boy, Jonadab never stood up for him after it happened, did he? But he had all the inside information with David. And that's the world. They're going to give you all the ways you can sin and do what you want, and they're going to leave you. I know most of the folks in this room, I would hope, you're never past the ability to do it, but I would hope there's enough character in this room that most in this room wouldn't do these things. But there could be someone watching, maybe someone will watch this later. Listen, this world's not the friend you think they are. They'll have fun with you, and when the time's done, they're going to leave you high and dry and let you wallow in your consequences. You know, Jacob's going to change, but it's going to take some time. Just as we saw Abraham, just as we saw Isaac, but it's going to take some time. There's going to be some hard lessons that are going to be learned. And that's true about everyone. So Rebekah's plan here to deceive, she settled her son's fears, and she told him to obey her voice. So Rebekah changed his appearance to reflect Esau's appearance by putting on the skins of the animal so he'd be hairy. And she provided Jacob even with the meat and the bread in order to deceive her husband. Ladies, if you're in the job of getting what you want by deceiving your husband, then shame on you. And may I say, men, if you're in the job of deceiving your wife by getting to get what you want, shame on you. We ought not be that way. Remember charity? We ought to be that way with each other and not be manipulating the situation and have crocodile tears and saying, oh, I'll be home later, but really you weren't working, or whatever the case may be. Fill in the blank. I don't check everyone's social media. So if I'm touching on things and hitting things and inside you're squirming, that's God, not me. Deception is an evil thing to have with one another, because what happens is when it finally reveals itself, you have lost the confidence of your spouse, you've lost the confidence of your parents, you've lost the confidence of your siblings. Your character and your testimony is in the tank. We're Christians. That's supposed to be Christ-like. I know we're in this fallen flesh, and I know we make mistakes, but get it right with God and get it right with the person you've wronged. And sin no more, as Christ would say. And Rebekah took goodly raiment, verse number 15, of her eldest son Esau, which was with her in the house, and put them upon Jacob, her younger son. So he's put the skins of the kids of the goats upon his hands and upon the smooth of his neck. And she gave the savory meat and the bread which she had prepared into the hand of her son Jacob. Verse number 18, and he came in unto his father and said, My father. And he said, Here am I. Who art thou, my son? And Jacob said unto his father, I am Esau thy firstborn. I have done according as thou badest me. Arise, I pray thee, sit and eat of my venison, that thy soul may bless me. I mean, he's in a hurry, right? I mean, as soon as he gets in the tent, he's like, okay, here, take this. Why? Clock's ticking. If Esau happens in on him while he's in there, it's over. Verse number 20. And again, that's sin. Do it in the dark of night, right? Do it in the alleyway. Not where the light is. Verse number 20, and Isaac said unto his son, How is it that thou hast found it so quickly, my son? And he said, Because the Lord thy God brought it to me. How many people are doing things in the name of the Lord that God's nowhere near it? Where they put God's stamp, they want God's stamp of approval. Because if they did have that, then they justify it in their heart and their mind. But in reality, God's nowhere near it. Worship, church. Let's put God's name on it and call it church, and it's not church at all. It's entertainment. I'm going to do this. Oh, we're shacking up together, but we love each other. God's certainly not against love, is He? Go downtown here to some of these churches in name only. God's love. So what's wrong with 2 men with men and 2 women with women? No, God's nowhere near that because God's Word says no. And what does Jacob do? He brings God into the equation. But God's not for this. If you've got to deceive somebody for something, then you're in the wrong. Verse number 21, and Isaac said unto Jacob, Come near, I pray thee, that I may feel thee, my son, whether thou be my very son Esau or not. Remember, he could have not gotten away with this if Isaac could have seen. But Isaac, his vision is poor. His eyesight is dim. He can't see what's going on. Jacob went near unto Isaac, verse number 22, his father, and he felt him and said, The voice is Jacob's voice, but the hands are the hands of Esau. Now here's something that's very, very important here. He hears the voice, but he doesn't go by what he hears. Or he doesn't take into account the voice, and he can't see, so he goes by what he feels. And here's the thing that people are doing today. Well, it feels right. I got peace from God. Well, what about this verse? Oh, no. I got peace from God. I talked to God about it. But what does God say? Well, God says that you should be loyal. God says that you should quit ye like men. God says that to be a man's man. God says that a woman should be a woman. There's these things that you should do. Oh no, but I got peace about it. You're going by your feelings. And now we've had more than one generation of I'm going by how it feels good. It must be right. And we are running off the rails because of how we feel. We run government because of how we feel. We run our homes by how we feel. We run our school system by how we feel. We run our churches by how we feel. And it's a mess. Because there's got to be a foundation. There's got to be a solid foundation, an authority. But our authority now is how we feel about it. And how we feel about it is what goes. And boy, is it a mess. You've got to have a foundation. It starts with a relationship with God and His Word and talking with Him and having a firm foundation. It's not popular now to be a man. And sometimes being a man is making decisions that are hard, but making the right decision. Well, you hurt my feelings. Well, I'm sorry. It's the logic. It's the truth. It's what's right, and we got to go by what's right. But that's not popular anymore. And where does it leave our nation? Empty. It leaves our homes empty. It leaves our nation empty. It leaves our governments empty. And we're in a mess. It's how we feel. All right? Made me feel good. All right, I'm glad you have a warm and fuzzy feeling. I'll get back to being real. And listen, that doesn't mean... Listen, hey... I've told my wife, I said, my girls especially. I mean, you talk about, you want to melt my heart. I got 3, 5 and under. And I have feelings, okay? But at the end of the day, when they do wrong, I have to discipline. My boys, it's just, hey, you need to sit over in that corner and you need to hush. Girls, you can't talk that way so much. We all know that. You've had daughters, you know what I mean. But you still got to do what's right at the end of the day. But I just want you to know, it's not Brother John doesn't have any feelings. But there's also the right direction, and there's the right decisions to be made, and you've got to follow the right way. The other thing that we see here is Jacob and his actions. In verses 19 and 20, we've already read these, but I want you to notice something. Number one, we see that Jacob lied about 4 things, and you might add another one, but here's what I have. He lied about the person he was. He lied about the person he was. He also lied about the performance that he made. He didn't go get it. Mom made it in the kitchen. He lied about the provision he had. He gave God credit, which was nowhere near it, right? Mom made the provision. And he also lied about the providence he experienced. As again, God was not part of this. This was something that he and his mom cooked up. So he lied about at least 4 things. It's all a lie. Now, we see Isaac's lack of discernment, and part of that is because of his being able to see. But he did hear the voice. Verse number 22, and Jacob went near unto Isaac his father, and he felt him and said, The voice is Jacob's voice, but the hands are the hands of Esau. And he discerned him not, because his hands were hairy. as his brother Esau's hand, so he blessed him. And he said, Art thou my very son Esau? And he said, I am. And he said, Bring it near to me, and I will eat of my son's venison, that my soul may bless thee. And he brought it near to him, and he did eat, and he brought him wine, and he drank. And his father Isaac said unto him, Come nearer now, and kiss me, my son. And he came near and kissed him, and he smelled the smell of his raiment, and blessed him, and said, See, the smell of my son is as the smell of a field, which the Lord hath blessed. Therefore God give thee of the dew of heaven, and of the fatness of the earth, and plenty of corn and wine. Let people serve thee, and nations bow down to thee. Be Lord over thy brethren, and let thy mother's sons bow down to thee. Cursed be every one that curseth thee, and blessed be he that blesseth thee. So what did he do? He blessed him. But he went by what he felt. He went by what he tasted. He did not go by what he heard. We're in a time, whether it's discerning God's Word. You know, there's many versions out there, right? You go to a bookstore, which anymore you just go click online, right? But you go, they all have a leather cover, don't they? They all feel the same, don't they? But they don't sound the same. God's Word, there's a certainty of it. It may smell the same, open up, hey, they're both bound on the same binder, maybe even, boundary. It's not the same God, it's not the same Word. And so Isaac relied on the sense of touch, for what he tasted, for what he felt. But he failed to go by the voice and even the situation. Like, something's not right about this. It's too fast, right? Too fast. So he blesses Jacob. Now this blessing here that we saw in the verse where he blesses him goes back to the blessing upon Abraham. Turn over to Genesis chapter number 12. And we'll just read verse number 1 for context here, verses 1 and 2 as well. It says, verse number 1, Genesis chapter 12, it says, Now the Lord had said unto Abram, Get thee out of thy country, and from thy kindred, and from thy father's house, unto a land that I will show thee, and I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee, and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing, and I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curseth thee, and in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. So that comes down the line of children, down the line of the patriarchs there, generations, and that's that same blessing that you see. He says, Blessed be them that blesseth thee, and cursed be them that curseth thee. And he's passing along that blessing. And we see that this blessings or curses for others is based upon their treatment of Jacob, which we know the Lord will name him later when Jacob wrestles with the Lord, when his name is changed to Israel. And those will be blessed that bless him, and will be cursed that curse him. We know, before too long, the son that was supposed to get the blessing is going to show up. Notice verse number 30. Verse number 30. And it came to pass, as soon as Isaac had made an end of blessing Jacob, and Jacob was yet scarce gone out from the presence of Isaac his father, that Esau his brother came in from his hunting. And he also had made savory meat, and brought it unto his father, and said unto his father, Let my father arise, and eat of his son's venison, that thy soul may bless me. And Isaac his father said unto him, Who art thou? And he said, I am thy son, thy firstborn Esau. Now you know that as soon as Esau heard that, it must have sent a shiver down his back. Like, wait a minute, why is Dad asking me who I am? And Isaac trembled very exceedingly and said, Who? Where is he that hath taken venison and brought it me, and have eaten of all before thou camest, and have blessed him? Yea, and he shall be blessed. And when Esau heard the words of his father, he cried with a great exceeding bitter cry, and said unto his father, Bless me, even me also, O my father. And he said, Thy brother came with subtlety, and hath taken away thy blessing. And he said, Is not he rightly named Jacob? For he hath supplanted me these 2 times. He took away my birthright, and behold, now he hath taken away my blessing. And he said, Hast thou not reserved a blessing for me? And Isaac answered and said unto Esau, Behold, I have made him thy lord, and all his brethren have I given to him for servants, and with corn and wine, and I have sustained him. And what shall I do now unto thee, my son? And Esau said unto his father, Hast thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. Can you see the agony, the urgency in Esau's voice? It comes through God's word here. He is troubled. He is in anguish. He's like, Father, don't you have something for me? I mean, my brother has supplanted me these 2 times. Is there anything left? Talk about, as I said a few weeks ago, they're fighting on their way out of the womb. Okay? These boys are at each other's throats from day one. They're 2 nations. Verse 39, and Isaac his father answered and said unto him, Behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth and of the dew of heaven from above. And by thy sword shalt thou live, and shalt serve thy brother. And it shall come to pass, when thou have the dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck. That's his blessing. He has been a man of hunting and foraging, a man of the field, and that's how he's going to make his way. Now this breaking of the yoke, we see in 2 Kings chapter 8, verse number 22. It says, Yet Edom revolted from under the hand of Judah unto this day. Then Libnah revolted at the same time. This is toward the end, when the nation is going toward captivity. We see Edom revolted from under the hand of Judah. When they had that opportunity, they broke away and made their own way. This situation with Jacob and Esau, and this kind of goes back to what we've already said, but I want to kind of go a little bit deeper into this, and I want to point it out again. We talked about how that Jacob and Esau, we talked about Rebekah, we talked about how that if they had only waited, God would have worked these things out. In our own lives, we get ahead of God. There's times we know what God wants, but we try to make it happen. Remember, Moses tried to make it happen at 40 because he knew his people needed to be rescued, needed to be taken out of captivity. But it wasn't the right time, and he did it in his own strength, and he slew an Egyptian. And then he ran for his life and was on the backside of the desert for 40 years. We get ahead of God many times in our mind, in what we do, and we don't wait on God to come through and make something happen. I'm reminded of the fact that Jacob needed to wait patiently in faith for God to fulfill the promise he had made to his mother. There are countless examples of this in Scripture. 27, verse number 14, the Bible says, Wait on the Lord, be of good courage, and he shall strengthen thine heart. Wait, I say, on the Lord. Maybe you got something you're praying about. Maybe you're praying about a job opportunity. Maybe you're praying about children. Maybe you're praying about the right one in your life. Maybe you're praying about the right spouse. The Lord don't have someone right now. Wait on the Lord. One of the things that I've learned over the years is that if I try to make something happen, I make a mess of it. But notice what the psalmist said. Wait on the Lord, be of good courage, and he shall strengthen the heart. Courage is that the strength you carry with you. Psalm 130, verse number 5 says, I wait for the Lord, my soul doth wait, and his word do I hope. So if I'm placing my hope, and it's not a hope like we use today, it's a real hope, it's a sure hope. If I have hope in God's word and what God's word says, that's a sure foundation, folks. But I got to wait on the Lord. The psalmist placed hope in God's word. Jeremiah understood the necessity of waiting and trusting in the Lord. For in Lamentations chapter number 3, verse number 24, the Bible says, The Lord is my portion, saith my soul, therefore will I hope in him. The Lord is good unto them that wait for him, to the soul that seeketh him. It is good that a man should both hope and quietly wait for the salvation of the Lord. Now, before you say, well, I don't know if Jeremiah understood what I'm going through. Jeremiah saw his nation demolished. This is Lamentations. He's lamenting the demise of his country. So before you say Jeremiah doesn't understand what I'm going through, I remind you that his whole nation was decimated by the enemy. What did Jeremiah say? The Lord is my portion, saith my soul, therefore will I hope in him. If you don't have anything else, if you're a saved individual here this morning, if you know the Lord, your portion is the Lord. The Lord is good unto them that wait for him, to the soul that seeketh him. I can say at 41, the Lord has been good to me. And tomorrow may bring its challenges, tomorrow may bring uncertainties, but I can say that the Lord has always been there for me and my family. So what am I worried about? I need to take that worry and that concern and that fretting to him. Simeon waited on the arrival of the Messiah, and in Luke chapter number 2, the Lord had promised him that he would not see death until he saw the Messiah. And when Mary and Joseph brought Jesus in for the ceremony of him when he was to be circumcised and that offering was to be made, he saw them come in, and he rushed over and he lifted the baby up and he blessed the Lord because he had seen the Messiah that had been promised. But how many times was he in the temple complex waiting for that day when he would see that one that was promised? What if he didn't go that day? Right? What if he, it's not happened yet, I think I'll just stay home. He would have missed him. So what if you give up the day before God's going to come through? You missed the blessing. What if you didn't show up at church when you should have been there and you'd have missed the blessing God had for you? Look around. Who is someone that should be here today? Check on them. They're missing out. They're missing out what God could be doing in their life. Maybe God's going to answer that prayer through church, but they're not here to get that answered prayer. You don't come for me. You don't come for this man. You don't even come for your friends. You come for the Lord. You're coming to see someone and to socialize. And I'm not saying that socializing is not a bad thing, because you're your brothers and sisters of Christ and you fellowship. But that's not the first and foremost reason. The first and foremost reason is to worship the Lord in spirit and truth, and also to get fed, but also to go out and feed. We see that the saint is to wait patiently on the Lord for the salvation of the body. Remember, we're saved, we're sealed, but this body's not been redeemed yet. Romans 8:25 says, "But if we hope for that which we see not, then do we with patience wait for it." What is Paul talking about in Romans 8? He's talking about that redemption of the body. This hasn't happened yet. Surely this is not it, right? Because there's coming a day when it will be redeemed. I patiently wait. A lot of your life is being patient and hoping in the Lord. And if you struggle with that, take it to the Lord and talk to Him about it. Because until you get that settled, you're going to be a frustrated individual. And then we see that in our practice, our daily lives, we should be patiently placing our faith and trust in the Lord as we walk by faith, not by sight. Right? Galatians 2:20 says, "I am crucified with Christ, nevertheless I live, yet not I, but Christ liveth in me. And the life which I now live in the flesh, I live by the faith of the Son of God who loved me and gave Himself for me." That's how I'm supposed to live. But it's a struggle. Trust me, I understand. I'm in this flesh too. We've always got to hand that back over to the Lord and say, "Lord, I'm waiting on you. I'm waiting on you. I'm waiting on you." Now, back to our context, we understand that Esau hates Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. Verse number 41. And Esau says in his heart, he's waiting for the day that his father would pass. And what is he going to do? He's calculating the time to go kill his brother. So what happens? Well, Rebekah, back in verses 42, 43, 44, she goes to her husband. She, again, brings up this story, which is probably true. She's worried about him taking a wife from the people of the land. Jacob needs to go to Haran to her brother to get a wife, so she makes sure that he gets sent away so that he can avoid being killed by his brother. We understand the story, and we'll finish up here. Verse 46, "And Rebekah said to Isaac, I am weary of my life because of the daughters of Heth. If Jacob take a wife of the daughters of Heth, such as these which are of the daughters of the land, what good shall my life do me?" So what happens? Well, we'll see next time. He's going to leave, but he's leaving for two reasons. And the main reason is his brother's going to kill him. He leaves, and he's going to go to Haran. And, boy, that's going to set off a chain of events that is just very interesting. We'll just leave it there. But listen, folks, what are you trusting God on a daily basis? Are you living for Him? Are you putting your faith, your hope, your trust in Him? Because He's the one that can come through. Man will fail you. Man is going to disappoint. Parents are going to disappoint. But God will never disappoint. So who are you trusting in this morning? Thank you.